Anti-government protests have been taking place in Israel as the country marks 6 months since the Hamas attacks that sparked the conflict. Israeli President Isaac Herzog has called it a bloody and difficult war. Many Israelis are now questioning their government, staging mass rallies, urging a deal to release hostages still being held captive by Hamas and other groups, and calling for new elections. For more on this, I'm now joined by DW Middle East analyst Shani Rosanes. Shani, 6 months into the war, how are average Israelis feeling about what's going on?
It's a very somber day. I mean, the mood is very low. We've seen the protest. I don't think any Israeli could have imagined 6 months ago that Israel would still be fighting Hamas so long in. I mean, we've just had Israelis just experience missiles attack from Gaza to the same parts of land in the southern of Israel just last week. So basically back to zero point, back to the same place. Hamas is still far from being defeated in Gaza. Israelis are aware of it. Netanyahu and his government have promised repeatedly, again and again, they're going to keep on pursuing Hamas until its complete annihilation, and this is far from being achieved. And also, there's still over 130 Israelis still kept hostage in Gaza. That's, of course, also a big part of the national mood and something that is driving the discourse about where is this heading and is there maybe a need for reconsidering the strategy Israel has taken so far.
Before we go further into that, let's have a look back at how all this unfolded.
These festival goers seemingly oblivious to the exploded rockets overhead. Soon afterwards, panic as Hamas militants run rampage at the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel. Almost 360 young people were killed in this attack, just kilometres from the Gaza border. Dozens more were kidnapped. At first light on Saturday, October the 7th, Hamas began firing a barrage of rockets from the Gaza Strip. Towns in southern Israel, such as Ashkelon, bore the brunt. Islamist militants also broke through Israeli border fences. CCTV footage shows them entering a kibbutz, but Hamas also filmed the terror it inflicted on Israeli communities. As well as killing around 1,200 people, more than 220 were taken hostage and driven over the border into Gaza. There's mounting evidence some were subjected to serious sexual violence. In an audio message, Hamas military commander Mohammed Deif called on all Palestinians to fight. This video footage shows Palestinians on the Gaza border celebrating on top of an Israeli tank that was said to have been captured by Hamas. There were anti-Israel rallies in the occupied West Bank, as well as in other countries such as Iran. Israel's response was swift, as it began its bombardment of the Gaza Strip. With devastating results.
Citizens of Israel, we are at war, not in an operation, but at war.
Israel's most powerful ally, the United States, offered its total support.
The United States stands with Israel. We will not ever fail to have their back.
October the 7th, a day of terror and carnage that continues to traumatize Israel. And a day for which Gaza is still paying the price.
Our Middle East analyst Shani Rosanes is still with me here in the studio. Shani, there's never any true winner in any war. Is there going to be a winner in this war?
Well, hard to say. I doubt that. I mean, this day, October 7th, has changed the region. It's changed the status quo. There was maybe a belief that there might be a way out of it. The Americans were pushing for a greater deal connecting also with Saudi Arabia and other moderate Arab countries for the region. This is still on the table, but nothing is going to move forward without having any progress in Gaza. And where we stand now, Israel seemed to have lost, the connection with America and the ties with American government, and Biden specifically. That was a strategic asset of the Israeli, and it seemed to have been weakened, same as the public support in America. There's a lot of criticism in Israel, as well as the rest of the world. That's one thing Israel have lost. And of course, when it comes to deterrence, that was Israel's biggest, part of its defense apparatus. It was a main pillar, the deterrence, the feeling that the rest of the world, and mostly the Arab world, have had that nobody should even try attacking Israel because its military might is so strong. Having seen that collapse on October 7th put Israel in a very precarious position. And a lot of what we've been seeing since, when it comes to the severity of the response in Israel, comes from the need that Israelis feel, the Israeli military feels, to rebuild that deterrence, to show Israeli might and abilities. That's the thing on the table for Israelis.
But Hamas has pulled that off against the deterrence. So is that a win for Hamas then?
In a way, yes. And you see a lot of support for Hamas growing outside of the Palestinian territory or outside of Gaza. I mean, a lot of support for the idea of Hamas and for the operation of Hamas, for its ability to finally defeat the mighty Israel, to bring such a blow to Israel. But at the same time, Hamas also has lost a lot of support within Gaza. In Gaza was this territory where Hamas managed to execute political Islam in a way that hasn't been, experienced before, and it was also seemed to be leading the Palestinian cause. And now all of that has been jeopardized, and probably we're not going to see Hamas in a political role as far as the international community. And, we're looking at the plans ahead. Definitely when it comes to Israel, we'll never let that happen. So they have also lost that. And I think they've also lost another key issue. They were expecting bigger solidarity, much more, when it comes to the Arabs, Palestinians living within Israel, also what's happening in the West Bank. Of course, there's a lot of oppression, a lot of Israeli military actions trying to prevent that. But the fact that Hamas has actually not managed to make this a wider regional conflict, that's somewhat of a blow as well to Hamas. And as we are moving forward with this, no end in sight, both sides might need to maybe acknowledge these losses in order to be able to try to find a way out of this terrible, tragic situation.
Shani Razanis, thank you very much.